What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Rezolve AI. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with macro data, we do have a lot of big things coming out. So starting off on Monday, it's going to be more of a reflection day. So what has been coming out this past week, and plus the market's going to be interpreting anything that comes out over the weekend as well. Tuesday, we have JOLT numbers, ADP, the weekly, and then on Wednesday, we have the dreaded interest rate decision. This is where I feel like it could go either way. Right now, there's about an 87% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut, but if the market doesn't get what they want, a cut, then it's going to throw a temper tantrum, most likely, and really sell off. Plus, over and above that, though, based on some comments from Basent, market is starting to now assume a following cut in January. So depending on what Powell says for that again could cause some volatility. So that's going to be a big one, a big day for the broader market. On Thursday, don't really have too much aside from initial jobless claims. That's going to kind of move the market. And then Friday seems to be more of a Fed speaker type of day. Companies unveiling their earnings. In theory, nothing really substantial that's going to affect the broader market. Specific to Rezolve, they are participating at the Maxim conference, and so that is going to be taking place on December the 8th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Although it does say that if you want to look at it, you have to reach out to your investment firm, sponsoring investment firm, to actually request that. Because even going over to Rezolve's website, it actually doesn't have anything to click on. So I don't know if this is actually going to be a true webcast or whatever else, or maybe it'll just be posted afterwards. But I really hope that they do actually do some sort of kind of webcast of it so we can see it live. Aside from that, though, shorts. So shorts have actually started to step up their game with Rezolve. So they did, even on Friday, increase 601,000 shares. And again, that's just net. That's at the end of the day. If we kind of pop over here, you can kind of see that there was about 3.13 million shares associated to shorts just done on Friday alone. So that is more than about 50%. So I think shorts are starting to get a little bit more active with Rezolve. But going into this upcoming week, 7.09% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 11.04 million shares overall being shorted. So definitely interesting stuff. I see some people online saying that this week is going to be a epic squeeze for Rezolve. I don't really understand where people are getting that mentality from. As far as I'm aware, from what the company has disclosed, this fireside chat is the only thing coming out this week. In theory, even a lot of the data points I did bring up, such as interest rates and whatever else, that in theory shouldn't really affect Rezolve, only because they don't really do that much business in the States. They will get moved through algorithmic trading. So if the broader market is starting to rally because of, let's say, a 25 basis point cut, Rezolve is going to piggyback off of that. But for direct kind of catalysts, I don't think that there's anything coming out this week to prompt a squeeze. So for those of you that know something that maybe is coming out, let me know in the comments below. But there seems to be a lot of people calling for a squeeze for this week. I'm not really sure why. But nonetheless, though, looking at the options, you had 135,000 in calls, 70,000 in puts, and then 38% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around 350 by the end of next week. So definitely a pretty good return. One thing to take note of, though, actually I'll kind of go over that in a second, but the bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of $3. So even the bears feel like there is a little bit more upside because it did close at 279 on Friday. But I want to draw your attention to this. So it went up 2.87% after hours on Friday. Of course, after hours Friday, very low volume, but there was some very abnormal transactions on the secondary market. And so I did a Rezolve video, I believe, on Thursday, so I didn't really kind of talk about this in any other video, but these are some of the transactions that did occur on Friday after hours. There was one that was done first thing. It was 280,000, but there was a $1.06 million transaction after hours on Friday, 192,000, 132,000, and then 122,000. It is fair to assume that a lot of that is institutions buying just based on the price action. So I don't know if big money was buying based on some information that is yet to be fully disclosed, because of course, as much as I like to believe that everything is fair in the market, someone always knows something ahead of time. And based on this, it is fair to assume that big money was buying. So maybe that's a good kind of point to keep in mind for this upcoming week, that things might be moving higher. Aside from that though, with it at 279, it is trading between this S2 and this S3. So 275 is going to be a strong support, kind of bounced off of that general area. So 273 was the low on Friday. So this could be considered a pretty good support level, but at the end of the day, you really want to watch for that to hold. If not, you are kind of staring off of a virtual cliff, because 242 would be that next strong kind of support point, and possibly that's why shorts were a little bit more active. They wanted to break resolve below a lot of these key levels, but 288, 296, 308, those are going to be the next strong target slash resistance point. So if, let's say, resolve and the broader market does start to kind of move higher and starts to rally, just kind of take a note of a lot of those. And in my opinion, based on the abnormal transactions after hours and just the optimistic tone for a rate cut, it is fair to assume that we will be kind of moving higher, in my opinion. Plus, I think resolve has been hit very, very hard, somewhat unjustifiably in some cases, but nonetheless, as of Friday, it did close below that 10-day moving average. So it kind of showed some momentum on December the 4th. It did kind of close above that 10-day moving average, but didn't really have enough on Friday. So that's going to be a couple points to watch for, is that 200-day moving average and also that 10-day moving average, just for it to close above that. So for instance, by the end of next Friday, if we don't close above that 200, anticipate further consolidation to at least the high ones. And that would be kind of crazy, but again, this is exactly what happens if you just follow the actual data. Don't get so emotionally involved or whatever else. If you just follow the data, things are pretty easy. And this is why even when it was starting to run up, I signaled that it was a solid buy. I posted it on my Patreon, so a lot of people made some pretty good money. I think I only put down 650 as a realistic target, or I might have chose 7. But nonetheless, even when it was at, I think, 6, I kind of signaled that based on the technicals, things were going to go a little bit lower. This is why pay attention to a lot of the points I'm bringing up, what big money is doing, what shorts are doing. It gives some insight and some indication of where the stock price as well could be going. But there hasn't been really that much in articles, nothing really new coming from any analysts. So it is just been at the mercy of the kind of broader market. So this upcoming week, you have Maxim and then Northland for the fireside chats, and this is one of my biggest issues, I think, with Resolve, and why people seem to really jump up and down over these analyst ratings when I'm not a big fan of them, because all of these technically Resolve's participated in their fireside chats. So aside from that, I think Cantor and AGP are the only firms that have given ratings that haven't hosted them. So you have Roth MKM, they were 2 weeks ago. You have Maxim, that's on Monday. HC Wainwright, that was, I think, mid-November. And then Northland, that is in like a week and a half. So in general, I feel like Resolve really needs some good, credible firms to give some ratings on before you see any crazy substantial buys from institutions. So all in all, I do feel like it is going to be a fairly volatile week, but I think Resolve should really move higher. I don't really realistically anticipate higher than 321, so I feel like realistically it should be closing between that 308 and 321, but that'd still be a pretty good return for 1 week. So let me know your thoughts on Resolve and where you realistically see things going. Do you think it's going to break down? Do you think it's going to go higher? It's all largely going to come down to the data points and what Powell really says, and if he alludes to a January cut. So hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.